Good morning, students. My name is Ms. Rangel, and today we are going to learn about food chains. Now, what is a food chain? A food chain is the order in which organisms or living things depend on each other for food. So an animal depends on food. We depend on food. We all depend on food. So the fox has to eat something. The lion has to eat something. So all of us together create a food chain. These are some of the important vocabulary words that we are going to go over. We have food chain, organism, producer, consumer, herbivore, carnivore, omnivore, prey, and predator. And we're going to go over every single one of them together. Our words. Organism is any living thing. So anything that lives is an organism. So we have an example here of a flamingo. Our next word is a producer. Plants are producers because they make their own food. So anything that makes their own food is a producer. So under producers, you'll have plants and you can have vegetables and fruits. So now prey is an animal that is caught and killed by another for food. So the rabbit is a prey because a bigger animal will come and eat the rabbit. So it's called a prey. Our predator is a wild animal which hunts or preys on animals for food. So the lion is the predator because it eats on the prey, which is the rabbit. So our lion would be a predator. A carnivore, an organism that eats meat. Organism that eats meat or the flesh of animals. And an example here is a fox because a fox eats a rabbit. Then we have omnivores, which is an organism that eats plants and animals. It is very important to remember that an omnivore eats both plants and animals. It eats both. So a good example that I put is a monkey because monkeys eat fruits and then they also eat insects or smaller animals. And a consumer is organisms that eat other living organisms. They eat other living things. So a frog eats mosquitoes, and mosquitoes are living things. Therefore, the frog is a consumer. Our herbivore is an organism that eats plants. That's all they do. They only eat plants. They don't eat animals, only plants. And I put here a deer, because a deer eats plants. Now, our producers. So we said producers make their own food. So we have grass and plants right here in our first picture. In our second box, we have lettuce and cucumber because cucumber comes from a plant. Then we have a tree and an eggplant in our third box. Now for our herbivores, we have some examples here. We have a butterfly, we have sheep and rabbits, and we have our elephant, which all are herbivores. These are just different types. For our omnivores, we have the bear and the squirrel because they eat berries and then they can eat smaller animals as well. We have birds and monkeys. We have fox and chickens. And for our carnivores, we have a lion, an eagle, and a shark. Now, some examples of our food chains here is it starts off with a cucumber. So we have a cucumber first, and then the fox eats the cucumber. And then the eagle eats the fox. So we have a chain of ways things go. First you have the cucumber, then you have the fox that eats the cucumber, and then you have the eagle that eats the fox. So we have our cucumber as a producer, and we have our eagle as a carnivore. Usually the carnivores will always be last, and a producer will usually always be first, but it can always start with a smaller animal as well. Now for the second one example here, we have the first one is a plant. The elephant eats the plant, and then the lions eat the elephant. And then the last one, we have lettuce. The deer eats the lettuce, and then the bear eats the deer. So they're passing on energy. Every single time they're eating something, they're passing on the energy. Okay, now let's try it together. Which animals fit into the food chains below? So here I have some examples. And then to the right, we have our choices. So we have a butterfly. For the first line, we have a butterfly. We have a butterfly first, which is okay. We don't always need a plant. So we have a butterfly. Then the bird eats the butterfly. So what do we think? Do we think the fox eats the bird, or do we think the fish eat the bird? Think about it. Butterfly, bird. What do we think? I think it's fox. So we have the butterfly, and then the bird eats the butterfly, and then the fox eats the bird. It can't be the fish because obviously fish are in the water. For our second line, we have some grass. So a mosquito feeds off the grass, and then do we think a frog eats the mosquito, or do we think a lion eats the mosquito? Let's think about that. Grass, mosquito, frog or lion? I think it's a frog too. I think it's a frog because a lion has way, way bigger animals to be feeding on than to be on a mosquito. So grass, mosquito, and then frog. The mosquito feeds on the grass and the frog feeds on the mosquito. Good job. Another one we have here are like leaves for plants. The deer eats the plants. And then who eats the deer? Does the sheep eat the deer? Or what is this a picture of? Humans. People. They're humans. They're people like us. So what eats deer? Humans or sheep? Think about it. I think it's humans as well. So we have grass, the deer that eats the plants or grass, and then the humans eat the deer. And the sheep can't be it because sheep is a herbivore, and herbivores do not eat other animals. Now, I want to do an activity together before we go and do our activity individually. So we are going to build our own food chain as a classroom. Okay. So we have the first one is a mosquito. So, well, one thing that I must let y'all know is that a food chain can be very long, depending on how many animals you can put. You can have from 3 to 4 to 5. It doesn't just have to be 3 animals. It can be several animals as well. And remember, it doesn't always have to start with a producer. So here we have a mosquito. What do we think comes next? Our choices are flowers, deer, frog, or owl. So let's think. What eats a mosquito? That would be a frog. A frog eats a mosquito. That's correct. Frogs eat lots of insects like flies for food. Now, What eats the frog? Is it a snake, a deer, a cow, or a mountain lion? It would be a snake. Let's check it out. The correct answer is snake. Carnivores, like snakes, so snakes are carnivores, eat other animals. The garter snake eats small frogs for food. Now, which of the following would eat a snake for food? Would a bee eat a snake? Would a salamander eat a snake? Would a woodpecker eat a snake? Or would the hawk eat a snake? I think it's the hawk. Let's check. The answer is hawk. A hawk is a carnivore and would make a nice meal out of a snake. So the frog eats the fly, the snake eats the frog, the snake is eaten by a hawk. That's the first food chain. Let's try another. What do we start with? The sun. So that's new, but it's not different. We're just starting with the sun. So what is the sun? What gets the sun? Which of the following uses sunlight to grow? So what needs the sun to grow? Fungus, grass, lizard, or a bobcat? I think it's grass. And why do I think that? Because producers, which is grass, make their own food. And to make their own food, you need the sun. So let's say that's right. The correct answer is grass. Grass depends upon soil, sun, water, and air to survive. Now, which of the following animals would eat plants? Plant leaves, a frog, deer, fish, or an owl? Oh, I think we went over this one of our examples. I think it's a deer. Let's double check. The correct answer is deer. Deers are herbivores that eat plants, leaves, bark, twigs, and nuts for food. Now, what eats a deer? What animal will try to catch a deer for food? A mountain lion, a porcupine, a bird, or a raccoon? A mountain lion seems about right, but let's double check. The correct answer is mountain lions. Mountain lions are carnivores that eat meat, such as deer. That is our second food chain. So we have the 2 food chains. Do we want to try a third? Let's remember the grass uses energy from the sun to grow. The deer eats the grass. Then the mountain lion eats the deer. Alrighty, one more. This food chain starts with a squirrel. Okay. Which of the following would try to catch a squirrel for food? A salamander, a dragonfly, a bobcat, or a woodpecker? That's interesting. Let's try a bobcat. Seems a little big, but let's try. The correct answer is bobcat. Bobcat eats all sort of small animals for food, such as squirrels. See? Now, which of the following would be able to make food out of bobcat and turn it back into soil? Ooh, this is a little new for us. We're just gonna go over briefly. So what turns something back into soil? I'm gonna help out with this one and say it is fungus. Let's double check. The correct answer is fungi. Fungi are decomposers. All living things eventually die. Decomposers like fungi and worms can turn living things back into soil. And which of the following needs soil to survive? Trees, coyote, fungus, or owl? So remember the very beginning, what was one thing? I think it's trees. Yes, pine trees need solar to grow big and tall. So food chains can be a variety of ways. So we always have um, the way that energy goes, one animal eating the other, or an animal eating a producer. But now I want you to go and try it on your own. We are going to go back to our desks and in just a minute, and I am going to give you 3 or 4 index cards so you can make your own food chain. I know you can. So you are going to be able to draw your animal and color your animal and then put it in the order you think they would eat each other. Now let's think, we're not just going to draw random animals. We have to think about what we are drawing. We want to draw, and not just animals, we can have producers as well. We have to draw something that we know is going to be able to eat another thing. For example, what not to do. We don't want to say that a whale is going to eat an elephant. A whale's not on land. How are they going to eat an elephant? An elephant is nowhere near the ocean. So we have to think about what we can actually draw that it can go together. After you have drawn it, you're going to put it in a line and show me with arrows what way you're going, what way the arrows go. And then you raise your hand so I can come to your desk and I can check it and I can be like, yes, good job. And then we glue it onto our journal. Okay. Now I want to give you my example, but since I'm giving you my example, you can't use your own. I mean, you can't use mine. I'm sorry. So here's my example. My first food chain. See, I made here a food chain with 3, and then I also made a food chain with 4. Okay, so my first food chain is a flower. And after that, I have a butterfly because a butterfly eats the nectar from the flower. And then a bird because a bird eats the butterfly. Our second food chain, which has 4, I have carrots. Rabbits eat the carrots. Fox eats the rabbit. And the lion eats the fox. So you see, I drew these all by myself and I put them in order before I glued them down, which is what you're going to go to your desk and do individually. I am going to leave up here some pictures to maybe give you some ideas of any animals or any producers that you might want to use. But we are going to go back to our desks and work on this individually. But let's not forget that food chains are the order in which organisms or living things depend on each other for food.